And we are now live, Chair.
Okay. Good evening to members of the committee and to other people who may be viewing remotely. Welcome to Ealing's Planning Committee. This evening we will be looking at one agenda item, which was deferred from the February meeting. In this process, I have Katie Sullivan, our Democratic Services Officer, and Twaid Islam, our legal advisor. Steve Barton is and David Scarfield, in fact, is our principal planning officers. And David Scarfield is our borough planner who would give advice to the committee if required. We also have our planning officer, Gregory Gray, who will present the item, and he's dealt with this planning application. You can see the committee in front of you, so they will speak and you will see who they are as we move through the agenda. First things on the agenda are apologies for absence. I know there's no apologies for absence because we've got 100% committee attendance, but we do have some substitutions. We only have one substitution for this meeting, and that is Councillor Donnelly substituting for Councillor Shabazz Ahmed, who's still unfortunately stuck overseas. I assumed he would be back by now, but he's still not back. So we have one substitution. Councillor Josh Blacker did move away from the last meeting, but he was a member of the committee, but now he's free, so he's on the committee. Next thing is there are no urgent items as far as I'm concerned. Sorry, yes. Somebody.
We've all received a letter questioning the legality of the constitution of this meeting.
Yes, I'll come to that.
From the legal officers on that.
Yeah, I will come to that in a minute. We've all received it, so I will take some legal advice in a minute. But I just wanted to go through the usual issues. There's no urgent matters as far as I know. Declarations of interest. I am aware that members of the committee have been lobbied, and I'm aware, and the members have let me know. Can I confirm all members have got an open mind and have not discussed this matter in any way which would prejudice them sitting on this committee? Unless I hear to the contrary, I'm going to assume all members may have been lobbied, but are coming into this meeting with an open mind to go through the process and come to a decision at the end. Is that a fair? Fair
yeah.
Agree to that? Yeah. If
Agreed,
you have got any,
agreed, Chair.
say so now. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Chair.
Yeah. Chair,
I've just had a message to say that the public link is not working. It just goes to a council YouTube with historic video.
It should be viewable now. I think possibly because we started the meeting just a few minutes late. If people were trying to view the stream, it wouldn't have been live at that point. Bearing in mind the stream is about 30 seconds behind time, so it should be okay. I will just double check that now though. Okay.
Shall we wait, or can you confirm that it's working?
I can see it working, Chair. It looks like about 74 people watching at the moment, so if that helps.
Okay. All right, that's helpful. Okay, so then I think I need to go to the legal advisor, because all members of the committee have received this letter, which really is not a planning issue, but I do think it's important we just get some clarification on if it does affect this meeting in any way. So Mr. Twaid Islam, our legal advisor, would you please put on your camera, and we need some advice.
Can you see me?
No, we can't see you yet. Yes, we can now.
Yep. Hi, good evening, everyone. Planning committee, just going straight into the answer. The planning committee operates a pool system, which means that members of a given committee are drawn from that wider pool of councillors. As such, there's going to be a number of combination, and it's very rare that you perhaps get the same committee members available at any given time. As this also supports the government guidance, where it says the planning application needs to be heard as soon as possible. As such, there's no legal requirement for the same people to be available to hear a deferred planning application, and this is this meeting is within the legal requirements.
Okay, and it's my understanding, I've never known a planning application which was deferred to be specially reserved for the same committee, exactly the same membership. It's never happened in the history of Ealing, as far as I know. So, in fact, this is comes as closest to the same committee as possible, with just a couple of changes. In fact, one change. So I think really most members were present at the previous meeting. So we'll move on. I don't see that affects us in any way, unless anybody else has any issue to raise. Nope. Okay. Can we move on to the draft minutes of the previous planning committee? Can I take that as a true record?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Thank you. So this application was deferred for one main reason, which was around the housing issues, around mixture and tenure, etc. Other than that, there are no changes in the application. So what we'll do is we will rehear this application, but members would be aware of the long number of questions we had at the previous meeting. So unless it's something new you need to add in, or I know there's a couple of members who weren't at that meeting, but really please, can we keep all questions to material planning considerations only and not wider issues? Because this planning committee is there to look at material planning considerations and nothing else. So I will stop people if they start going off topic, and I will be a bit stricter this time around, because it took a long time last time for us to get 2 hours virtually to just do questions. So what I will ask now is Mr. Gregory Gray, who's a planning officer, to go through the application and lead us through that application, and then we'll move on to the objector and the applicant, etc., the people who are speaking. So, Mr. Gray.
Chair, sorry, before you go to start, we spent over 2 hours and 2.25 hours with everyone at the committee, and everyone else just last time went through deferral. I was just going to say, if people are minded, and I know it may take that time to do that, but if people are minded to do a deferral, please do it at the time they're minded, rather than wait till later on in the evening. That's what I would say.
I think that's the case, but I do think it's important we go through this process and come to a conclusion today. So members, please wait till the debate's done. If you are really minded, let us know quickly if you want to move to a different outcome. But we do want to try and move further than we did at the last meeting. So can I come to the planning officer, please, to introduce the item?
Thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes, I can anyway.
Yes, I can.
This is very clear. Thank you.
I'll assume silence is acquiescence. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to take you through the application. This is an application which affects Percival House, the site of the Council Civic Offices, and it's an application for the demolition of existing buildings and a phased redevelopment of the site to provide a mixed-use development comprising replacement civic centre, community uses, offices, relocated public library, flexible office and commercial space, non-residential space below ground in a basement with storage and parking, and then above ground 477 dwellings, including 50% affordable homes, in a total of 6 blocks, including a residential tower of 26 stories, replacement of an existing electricity substation, and associated landscaping, public works and access. And the property is Percival House in front of you. The Chair, I'd like to just outline the fact that this is a planning application under our Regulation 3 of the Town and Country Planning Regulations 1992, and that is important for any resolution the committee might make. I.e., and no doubt the solicitor will confirm, if it is your intention to grant planning permission for this development, then it must, as a matter of law, be first referred to the Secretary of State for him to decide whether he wishes to call the application in or not. And that is run at the same time as a referral to the Mayor under stage 2. So this is not a conventional planning application. Site Percival House here in front of you, Longfield House to the west, Ealing Town Hall to the east, Dickens Yard, Longfield Avenue, and the reverse view, the back of the site, the railway line going to Ealing Station, Longfield Avenue here, Dickens Yard over here, the car park to Percival House, the electricity substation, which is to be moved, and then the civic offices, Longfield House, and then this is the end of Craven Avenue. So, and then we have Gordon Road, houses.
You just.
I'm sure you're well acquainted with the council office building. Hello?
Yeah, you did just break away your sound for a second, but it's come back.
Okay, I'm back, am I? Okay, I'll talk. I'll talk slowly and quickly at the same time. So here we have some photographs of the existing Percival House building, Longfield House to this side here, Town Hall to this side here, and the front of the building, which you will note stands on a podium, taking account of the changing levels in Longfield Avenue. And then this is a view of the rear of the site from the bridge over Longfield Avenue, Percival House here, the old fire station, and Dickens Yard to this side here. The site itself comprises this building with 120 space car park, the electricity substation, land which is contained here, and then a belt of street trees along Longfield Avenue, London Plains, other trees along the frontage here, including the holocaust trees at the front of Percival House, and then a line of TPO trees just within the boundary of Longfield House. And the property in question, Percival House, sits right at the edge of the central Ealing Conservation Area, which is in blue, which contains the Town Hall, the Christ the Saviour Parish Church, and then within the Ealing Green in pink conservation here, Pitshanger Manor, Pitshanger Walpole Park, and then in yellow, Haven Green Conservation Area. Those are the nearest ones, and then this smaller map shows the wider ones in the area. So views from Craven Avenue. This is Craven Avenue looking towards the existing civic offices, where at the end of the road it terminates abruptly with this very high brick wall with 2 properties on either side of it flanking the wall. And then on these lower photographs of Longfield House, this is the view from Uxbridge Road. And then this is a view from within the car park looking back towards Uxbridge Road. And you can see how the interrelationship is currently between Percival House and Longfield. And then these are photographs of the view of the rear of properties in Gordon Road here along the railway line from the Longfield Bridge. This is the view from Percival House, looking again towards the same block as flats as this one here. You'll note the tree line running along the backs of properties in Gordon Road. And then this is the view as you come over the bridge, as you approach the rear of Percival House, the old fire station here. This is Aspley House, part of Dickens Yard development. And then this is a small access route that runs down between the fire station and Aspley House through the Dickens Yard site. And the application site is covered by 2 development plan allocations. The first one within the development plan allocations, AL7 allocates the car park and electricity substation for a residential development. And then within the Central Ealing Neighbourhood Plan policy CNP2, the bulk of the site, but excluding the electricity substation. So there is an overlap between these 2 parts of the site. And just to pick up that this allocation allows for residential development to facilitate retention and reprovision of space for the local authority headquarters and customer facilities, in other words, to provide a ongoing community facility here in the way of civic offices, to include such other facilities as the library, which forms part of the planning application. So the applicant has undertaken wide consultation as part of the development of the proposals. This is contained within the report but summarised here. And as you can see, there's been extensive consultation not only with officers, but there have been 2 design review panels independently convened. There have been 3 formal Historic England consultations. There have been 3 GLA and TfL consultations. And then within the wider community, a range of public exhibitions, invitations distributed to stakeholders, members, the community at large, and then subsequent to the application being submitted, further engagement not only with...
Can I just intervene? Can you put the thing into full screen mode? Can you do that?
Yes. Yes, I thought I had it on my thing here. Don't think I can... is that better?
Yes,
is that better?
That's much better.
Okay, fine.
And
I'll stick with
that. Sorry, I'm getting a message that says when you're loading on the slides, you're then cutting out a little bit. Would that be because we've got our cameras on, Katie? Should we switch off our cameras?
If you think that it's delaying it, then
I think I'm going to stop our cameras because
just whilst the presentation's on, committee members.
Can you please switch off your cameras? Okay, great. Sorry, apologies for the interruption, but
no, it's no problem at all. No, I was pausing in between each slide because I remember last time there was a slight time delay. So moving along.
Time display, but it's just that's
quite. But these slides illustrate the design development that went as part of the preparation of proposals, both in relation to the design and siting and external appearance of the civic offices, which then resulted in the final scheme that we have within this application. And then likewise, massing alternatives undertaken by the applicant with regard to the residential component, looking at ways in which the height of the tower could be redistributed within the scheme, and with it any benefits or disbenefits within the proposals, and that's set out in the committee report. The result scheme is the planning application layout that you have before you, with new civic offices situated in the current position of the civic offices building. Then you have residential blocks either side here to Longfield House and to Aspley House. You have the location of the 26-storey tower in the north corner of the site here, and then you have blocks descending down to 3 stories at the boundary of Craven Avenue, comprising, as I say, 477 market and affordable dwellings, of which 226 are affordable, 251 are market, and then the civic offices. I'll come into that in more detail shortly. A part of the applicant's proposals, which are a phased development, involve the retention of part of the civic offices initially in order to enable the council to conduct its functions while the development takes place. So the first phase involves the demolition of what would become the location of the replacement civic offices building, where I'm circling here. And then the next phase of development would be the erection of the new civic offices building, retaining the existing Percival House, and then the erection at the back of the site of blocks 1 and 2 at the edge of Craven Avenue. Now, the access that's shown through here is an access that would only become available once the blocks are completed. There is no access whatsoever through Craven Avenue as part of any of the construction. All construction works will always exit and leave via Longfield Avenue onto Uxbridge Road. And then as the later phases come forward, so the remainder of the council offices block is demolished to provide the location for the 2 residential blocks here with ground floor commercial, and the completion of the completion of the pedestrian and cycle link through to Longfield Avenue from Craven Avenue. And then the last phase, the remaining phase, is the two blocks, blocks 3 and 4, block 4 being the tower, and then that would complete the development. Some details on drainage works. The scheme proposes, not only within the context of retention of existing trees and works relation to them, the collection and distribution of rainwater, surface water and rainwater, to feed existing proposed trees through attenuation tanks or cisterns. They would be located in these places here, and that is designed to enable and improve the life expectancy of existing trees, as well as enhance the development of proposed trees. And then the site layout as illustrated here, with the ground floor of these blocks in white being commercial elements, being exclusively residential, with the exception of block 4 here, which has some commercial at ground floor level, and the concierge. And you can see here the way that the access arrangements are developing, and I'll come to that. This is information on comparative heights of development viewed in relation to existing blocks on Uxbridge Road, and it's really just as a matter of information. The tallest block at the moment is the Arc Tower, which has a height of 108 metres above Ordnance Datum, with the tallest block on the proposal site being 122 metres above Ordnance Datum. I can deal with this in floor heights, but I think it probably makes more sense and it's more significant in terms of assessing impact. The relationship of the buildings is seen between each other. Granted for an extension to the hotel here. And then viewing the development site from the Gordon Road side, so we have Dickens Yard as existing at the present time, the end of Craven Avenue, and then this shows you how the development scales up, culminating in the tower in this corner here, and then the lower blocks. And you'll note that the development steps down as it reaches the properties in Craven Avenue to emulate the same height as them. This is views of the proposed civic offices. There is a fly-through, Chair, and that will be run at the end of this presentation. So I won't show too many of these images now, so that you can see them completely when it's finished. But this shows the new civic offices, the tower at the back of the site in relation to the existing town hall. This is the Arc Tower in the distance here, and then this is the view back towards the town centre. And then there's some information on the materials for the new civic offices building. It'll be primarily brick and dogtooth detailing within the certain elevations, except for those sections which are going to be glazed. And the reason why there's a combination of these materials is primarily in the interests of economical construction and usage of the building. Because of its orientation, it will capture a great deal of sun, so it's been necessary to manage the amount of brick to glass components within the overall development, but then that adds interest to the overall form and allows detailing within the design of this part of the structure to emulate the powering it. These are the ground floor commercial units. Then this is the glazed section, and then culminating on the return into Longfield Avenue of this large glazed window. And these are the materials and colours, ways that would be used for it. And then to the floor plans of the civic offices. So on the ground floor, the entrance will be from Longfield Avenue for the public into the customer areas and reception of the council offices, with the commercial units on the ground floor directly facing onto Uxbridge Road. And the important thing to note here is that the whole of the building is at level with Uxbridge Road and Longfield Avenue. So unlike the current podium feature that you have, where you have to rise up over steps or you have to climb steps to enter from Longfield Avenue, everything is at the same level as the street, and that helps to emphasise the openness and the boulevard feature, the boulevard character of this part of Uxbridge Road. Once inside the building, you could then rise to the first floor, which will contain in green, the library, the library, and then customer services in the yellow here with the central core. And I would just pick up a point that was raised previously, because I think it would be helpful to do that here, which is that the inside of this building contains 2 staircase exits and 2 lift exits, one of them for being for fire access, because the building is designed to be fully compliant with fire regulations. And so the building rises in upper floors in pink with staff space, and then culminating on the roof with an area of plant and PVs. And then the basement of the new council offices building will contain the relocated electricity substation, which will move from the top of the site into this area here. It will contain cycle parking for council staff, and then it will also contain cycle parking for the residents. It will have blue badge parking primarily for residents and, primarily blue badge parking for residents and for visitors to the council offices. There will be 2 parking spaces for council's own functions, but other than that, it's a car-free development. And then there is storage within this ground floor here for the library, archive storage for the library. And then access to the basement car park will be from a lift arrangement, whereby vehicles will enter and leave via Longfield Avenue as indicated here. This lift is up and down, so in other words, if one's in use, you can use the other one.
Whoa. Katie, we lost him. Have we lost?
Yes, it looks as though he's possibly dropped out.
We need
Bear
to
with me just a moment. I'll see if I can get in touch with Greg. Okay.
Yeah, we'll just wait. We need that.
It doesn't happen. The chair is it never happened before. Yeah.
No, it hasn't, but there's always a first time for everything, Councillor Mahmood. But we'll wait. We have to.
Chair, am I still in the meeting?
Yeah, no, we are. Do you think, Katie, we should take a 10-minute break or 15-minute break? People can just go on silent and have a cup of tea.
So thank you, Chair. Me and my colleagues are just trying to reach Greg. So if you did want to just adjourn for 5 minutes or so.
We're at 1940. Can I say 1955, so people can put them on mute and close their cameras? They can have a 15-minute break. I can only apologize.
Chair.
Yes.
I don't think we need 15 minutes. Give it 5 minutes.
Sorry.
And then give it 5 minutes and then see. We can all reconvene in 5 minutes, surely. Otherwise, the evening will drag on.
Yeah. Okay. So shall I? Okay. Can I just say I won't reconvene till 1950? That's 10 minutes from now. So if people want to go have a cup of tea or whatever, that's fine. Just put yourself on mute and close your camera. And can I apologize to outside contributors that we've had this technical hitch, but we'll allow for 10 minutes so you can have a cup of tea and whatever, and the meeting will be not taking place at the moment. So if you want to go have a cup of tea, please go. You're welcome to. And we will reconvene 1950. Okay.
And just to confirm, Chair, so that the meeting will still be live on YouTube. Please, everyone, do not leave the meeting, as it may then just cause delays in then joining again. But the meeting will remain live, so please just turn your cameras off if you wish to.
And mute, and then just have a cup of tea. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, Chair, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and apologies for that. And I was completely unaware of why I was getting messages, but now I understand why. I'm going to go back to the point where I believe, Steve, I was cut off, which I think may have been, was it, had I reached the basement of the...
Actually,
Gregory, you need to wait, because I've just asked people to go away for about 10 minutes because we were not sure.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah,
I
because
apologise.
we're not sure when you were going to come back on.
No, I was completely unaware of the fact that that had happened. So my apologies.
Yes, yeah, I know. So just put your screen back on, but don't carry on until everybody's back. Yeah.
No, I will do, Chair. And apologies to Katie. Now I understand what her message meant.
Should we not check everyone's here?
No, they're not.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to wait.
And this is full screen, yes? That's fine. And
it is full screen, yeah.
And you are actually breaking up now and again. So just, I don't know, is there some issue with your connection?
Well, it shouldn't be. It's been very good all day.
Okay. But every now and again there was a little bit of a hiccup, but it looks like it's okay now. So can we just wait? I said 1950 to people, so I'll give them a few minutes and then we will reconvene.
Just need to mute a minute.
Katie?
Yes, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I just wanted to make sure I'm in the meeting, yeah, because the screen is...
Yes,
it's
that's fine, Councillor Mahmood. We are just, we have another 5 minutes or so, and we will then reconvene. Okay, thank you.
No worries, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your message, Katie.
Okay, Katie, it's 1950, I make it. Can we confirm, first of all the committee's back yet or not?
So it's probably a good idea, Chair, if you just go through the list of
Yes.
members and just check that everyone's
Can you
here.
switch on your cameras if you're here so I can just quickly see who's...
I'm here.
Yeah. Councillor Mahmood, I see you. Councillor Miriam Rice. Paul, Councillor Conlon, are you there? Yeah. I think I can see all the names. Can you see anybody who's not here, Katie?
I'm just going to check through, Chair, but it may just be, you know, a good idea if you did maybe just go through each committee and just get them to confirm that they are in
All right, so I can see Councillor Donnelly, I can see Councillor Nuns, I can see Councillor Josh Blacker, I can see Councillor Gary Fustill, I can see Councillor Paul Conlon. Paul? No. Councillor Mahmood, I can see. Councillor Miriam Rice, I can see. Nigel? Yes, I can see him. Lauren Wall? Yeah. Ray? Yeah. Simon? Yes. Where are you, Simon? Yep. Councillor Young, you're there? Yeah.
So yes, Chair, it looks as though all 13 committee members are back now.
Okay. What about Andrew? Are you there? Mr. Colvin, are you there? You're muted, sir. Just let me know if you're there.
I'm here.
Okay. And Sarah, are you there? Fine. I think we're happy to proceed. Katie, you see anybody who's not back?
No, so it looks as though Gregory Gray's back with us, and we also have Steve Barton as well, and we have Twahid as well, our solicitor.
Okay.
So yes.
And I think Seema's there. Seema, are you there?
I am very much.
Okay. So, Gregory, I know these things happen. Don't worry. Can you just take your time and just carry on, please? Don't worry. The technology does go wrong, but it's not an issue.
Don't worry.
You just move
Don't
on.
worry, Chair. I'm old enough to remember a time when we didn't have to worry about technology.
I know.
So
it is still lockdown, so we have to manage the best.
no.
So,
What I'm going to do, Chair, is just take you to where I think I marked you, and if you can just confirm that you'd seen that screen, because what I don't want to do is to miss anything. So had you all seen this screen, Chair?
yes, we did. You were on the car parking and etc. Yes, you were on this screen.
Okay, then I know where to continue from. So I'll move on to the next screen, which I was going to look at, Chair, which is looking at service access. So this layout shows the where the on-street blue badge parking will be on Longfield Avenue, including a drop-off space here. It shows the access to the car and cycle lift to the basement car park. It shows the lay-by parking area, which is also the location for refuse collection from Longfield Avenue. And then it shows entrance to the basement area for servicing of the electricity substation, which is also used for loading and unloading for the residential and commercial units and for the civic offices. There are demountable bollards, Chair, at this point, so that vehicles don't have free access. Anyone wanting to have access would obviously have to call ahead. And then at Craven Avenue, this is the existing truncated section of the cul-de-sac, and what has been designed is a turning head within the site to enable delivery vehicles to enter and leave in a forward gear. Obviously, that would benefit also residents in Craven Avenue because it would allow refuse vehicles to perform the same manoeuvre. That's a bollarded point. So other than fire engines or refuse collection vehicles would not would utilise this area here. Refuse collection would call ahead and the bollards would be dropped to allow the refuse vehicle to enter and leave in a forward gear. Then moving on, This shows the circulation spaces within the scheme for pedestrians and cyclists, east-west from Craven Avenue into Longfield Avenue and thence into Dickens Yard, or through the public realm space within the site and thence onto Uxbridge Road and the Broadway, or through Dickens Yard here, and then the various entrance points at ground floor level, commercial, civic offices entrances, servicing entrances from the rear, and then entrances to the commercial units and the residential, and this is the concierge. And then this is the layouts of the residential blocks, and this sets out the fact that 99% of the flats are either dual or triple aspect, regardless of tenure. There are no single aspect north-facing flats. The only single aspect flats are these here, of which there are only 6, and they face south. These are the triple aspect flats, which are also part of the affordable units, as I say, and then all the blue ones, and all the blue ones here are dual aspect. And then this is a table which explains how the various tenures are divided up within the scheme. I assume you can still all hear me, Chair.
Apologies.
Hello?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
No, sorry, Chair. I've become slightly paranoid about it now.
No. I was on mute, but I'll make sure I'm not on mute. So I can come back to you.
That's all right, Chair. I don't know if I can do this a third time. Anyway, so this is the breakdown rather of dwelling types within the market units. And as you can see, there's a range of studio 1 and 2 bed units, no 3 beds. And then within the London affordable rent, there are no studio flats, but there are 23 1 bed, 33 2 beds, 14 3 beds, making a total of 70. Then within the discount market units, no studio flats, a range of 1, 2 and 3 bed units across the board there. And then with regard to occupancy, I think this table is very important to note from the point of view of the affordable dwellings, because you will see, Chair, that when it comes to 2 bed units, they are both suitable for 3, 4 and up to 6 persons. And the only 6-person ones that are available are actually within the affordable housing. Substantial proportion of 3 bed, 4 person within the affordable, and likewise 2 bed, 4 person within the affordable elements here as well. So there's a heavy weighting in terms of family occupancy towards the affordable housing. And then this table here explains how the affordable units are delivered through the scheme, and also explains the pepper potting of the various tenures through with the market provision. So phase 1 in red here shows you that there are 67 London affordable rent flats and 28 private in the first phase, and then likewise coming through LAR and discount market rent and private, and then working its way through the stages of the development. Important point to note, though, is the early delivery of affordable housing within the scheme. And then this table, Chair, explains, and we'll come back to it later if you wish, because I know it was a matter of discussion at the previous meeting, but this table has been prepared to demonstrate how the rents would be assessed against the various tenures within the affordable provision, but most importantly, the percentage of rents that would be charged. And you will note from that, Chair, that there is no greater than a 66% of market rent chargeable within the development, coming as low as 29%. So these are very affordable units, as I'm sure Mr. Baptiste will confirm to you in due course. And then just coming on to some of the design aspects of the scheme, Chair, a view, sort of a cutaway section view along Longfield Avenue. This is the railway line, so the bridge goes over the railway here to houses in Gordon Road. There's film works here showing you the main entrance to the civic offices, one of the residential blocks here, and then the tower, and then the cascade of buildings behind. And then this is a view, as it were, from Craven Avenue. It's the other side of that view, in effect. So this puts the tower at the back of it. This is the block 5, and then this is the flank of the civic offices building. And then this is an illustration, as it were, looking from the south on Uxbridge Road, if that was possible, looking north. So you're looking at the tower in this corner, block B4, the cascade of blocks down, and in particular, the cascade of blocks down towards dwellings in Craven Avenue, which is one of the policy requirements of the allocation for this part of the site. And importantly, it shows you the space between the blocks and the articulation, which helps to emphasise the openness within the development, which is a key component. This is a view, as it were, from the railway line. So the rear of properties in Gordon Road would be to the front of the image here, with the tower block, and then as I was just showing you, the cascade of properties. So this is the reverse side of the image I just showed you, with the development cascading down towards the houses in Craven Avenue. This is the materials for the tower block, and the important emphasis here, Chair, is on the quality and type of materials. We're talking brick, we're talking of various colours, we're talking terracotta, and we're talking precast concrete. So the key design elements are intended to achieve not only high design quality, but obviously are of minimal fire risk within development, which is clearly a very important consideration these days where towers are concerned. But these colourways are evident throughout the scheme and reflect the high quality materiality of the development. And so likewise with regard to blocks B5 and 6, these are green terracotta bands which pick up the theme of the banding within the new civic office building and reflect the mansion block style that these blocks seek to emulate. And then with regard to public realm and landscaping for the scheme generally, so we have the plaza space outside the entrance to the new civic offices, and then we have the public realm through the site itself here, and then the safe pedestrian and cycle priority access at these points here, and cycle and pedestrian only access through these points here. And then a bit more detail really on the size of this open space realm area here. And then within the roofs of the development, then the play space and amenity space for the blocks. So the development is compliant in policy terms with private amenity space. All properties have fully compliant balcony space. Where there are balconies, only 4 units on the top of the tower do not have balconies, but in accordance with GLA standards, they have enlarged internal space to compensate for that. But you will note that there is a shortfall in certain components of the scheme in relation to communal space and play space. It's not to say it isn't in the scheme, Chair, it's just that it fails to meet standards. I'll show you where it is in a minute. There's an allotments and sports facility contribution, and any shortfall would be made up through contributions which are contained in the recommendation. So with regard to ground floor play space, Chair, and this is at this point here, where one comes through the scheme east-west from Craven Avenue, and you can see that there is a dedicated area of play equipment for children age groups 0 to 10 within this area here. So there is play space immediately within the environs of the flats themselves, and indeed this is generally accessible, this space, Chair. So it's not confined exclusively to them. So persons passing through the development or using development, children could actively use that space as well. This is some images of the new entrance to the civic offices from Longfield Avenue, Chair, emphasising the Undercroft feature here. This view here is looking, this is the elevation of the Victoria Hall with the beautiful rose window, which will be visible through the library space on the upper floor deck. And so, Chair, turning to the three locations identified in consultation with Historic England as being the locations considered by Historic England to be most materially affected in heritage impact terms. The first one is this view here from the Broadway. Here's Christ the Saviour Church. This is part of the Dickens Yard development, and this shows the new tower within that view and the conclusion of Historic England, sorry, is that this is judged to be relatively low level of harm, less than substantial harm. Likewise, in relation to impacts on the Ealing Town Centre conservation area generally, conclusion of Historic England is judged to be a relatively low level of less than substantial harm. And then the one view that is considered to be most significant by Historic England is the view from Walpole Park, looking towards the bridge and the lake, towards the new tower. And this just over the top here is the new civic office building, judged to be a high degree of less than substantial harm. And in the context, Chair, this just picks up the Arc Tower building, just indicating that there is already within that wider view a tall building. And then these are wider views that were assessed as part of the Townscape and Historic Visual Impact Assessment as part of the consultation with Historic England, but were not deemed by Historic England to be of such significance, but nevertheless noteworthy. These are wireline views from various locations. For example, from the bridge at St Leonard's Road, Chair, looking back towards the Dickens Yard site. This is a view from Gordon Road. And I understand, Chair, that there are some concerns have been expressed that, that there may be some clever positioning of cameras so as to show the obstructing view of trees in certain of the views. And that can't be denied, Chair, but I think it's important to note, nevertheless, that they do and will continue to have some impact in the changing views along the street scene. So it's not unreasonable to show the relationship of the tower in relation to these views. And as you can see, these are wintertime views anyway. And in the summertime, when the trees are in leaf, then these views would be much less visible, albeit obviously in certain locations. And then this is a view from, can't actually, hang on a minute. Sorry, I think this is Tortoise. Oh, yes, from Tortoise Green, Turtle Green. But looking back south into the town, and you can see the tower in the view here. And then this is a drawing showing separation distances between nearest properties, Chair. So we have a separation distance from Apsley House to this block here of 18 metres. We have a distance here of 17 metres, but that's a minimum distance because it goes to the edge of the outside of the building. There are flats within the recess. If you include those as well, that is 18 metres. Shows the separation distances between the new blocks, and then the separation distance between nearest dwelling houses in Gordon Road to Vernon Court, 51 metres to the tower on block 4. To other properties in Gordon Road here, 73.3 metres. Oh dear, oh dear. And then to Craven Avenue, a separation distance of 3 metres flank to flank. And then, Chair, turning up to the matter of daylight and sunlight impacts, the applicant's assessment has been reviewed by Council's retained consultants, EB7, who have explored the contents of that report, the assumptions that were reached and the conclusions that were reached. And these drawings are from that report, Chair. So the important thing to note is that in pink here, it shows what are called the residential receptors. In other words, those residential properties in the vicinity that, having carried out the initial assessment, are deemed to be the most materially affected by the development. Although ultimately, and perhaps not unsurprisingly, those blocks which are considered to be most affected by the development than any others are 2 Longfield House and 2 Apsley House here. That's not to say there aren't impacts on these wider areas, but that they are not so materially affected. This image, Chair, these 2 images are actually from the assessment, the applicant's assessment, and I put them in here because what they do is they identify the properties along Uxbridge.
Oops. Gregory, you've just dropped out again. Can you hear me?
Chair, he won't hear you.
Yeah. Katie, you need to speak to him again.
Yes, no problem, Chair. Me and my colleagues will try and get in touch with Greg right away.
Are you back, Greg?
I am back, Chair, yes.
So you need to share your screen again.
I'm going to do that right now, Chair, yeah. I understand I lost you only momentarily, Chair, so I don't know. I understand because I have a very strong...
You were on the daylight sunlight, okay.
That's right, Chair, yeah. Okay, I'll carry on, Chair.
Yep.
I was just looking at this. I don't know how far I got, but I'll go through it again just in case.
Astley House, you were showing, and Longfield were the ones which were most affected.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd really got to that point. So the point that the conclusion that I was setting out, which was that it was common ground between the experts that the blocks most materially affected by the application are Astley House here and Longfield House here, which is perhaps not unsurprising from a non-specialist point of view, but nevertheless is confirmed by the evidence. But the key point to note is in terms of the wider area, although these wider receptors were also considered, those were not considered to be affected in such the same way as they are in relation to these properties. And I think it's important to acknowledge, because I've actually quoted the report here, that Longfield House and Astley House receive more material impacts to daylight and sunlight that may constitute significant harm and would need to be balanced against the benefits of the proposal. So there's no suggestion here at all, Chair, in your office just otherwise that there is no harm, but it looks to be looked at in the balance. And the comparison of the impacts created with other large-scale developments has shown the scheme is consistent with these other developments. So the overall conclusion is that although there is more harm, nevertheless, that is not an unusual level of harm that may be found in other London developments. The explanation for that, Chair, is fundamentally because the rear of the site, where the car park and substation is open and undeveloped land, which is an unusual characteristic in London. But what it does, in effect, is it gives an impact that or level of sunlight and daylight that these blocks currently enjoy, which is different and significantly better than might be expected in a London situation. Where you're presented with that, then the test must be, is that harm so significant as to refuse planning permission without considering any of the options? That's assessed in the report, but also, is that harm capable of being mitigated by the benefits of the development? And benefits in this sense are the full and efficient use of this site. And the reports also note that part of the reasons why flats in Astley and Longfield would be more likely to suffer is largely because they're designed in such a way as to, they have recessed windows, for example, on Astley, with overhanging balconies, so that affects the sunlight and daylight to them. But as the officer's conclusion in the report is that taking those balance considerations into account, that the harm is mitigated by the benefits. I'll turn next, Chair, to the representations, and when I Chair, there were 2,115 representations. There may well have been more in the meantime, but they amount to 2,105 objections, by 9 of support and 1 neutral. And I'll run through those very, very briefly, Chair, although they are in the report, but I think it's worth noting them nevertheless. The concerns essentially in relation to overdevelopment, excessive cumulative density, scale and height, disruption of the skyline, an inappropriate location for tall buildings, the height and visual impact of the 26-storey tower, sunlight, daylight and shadow impacts from the tower, loss of views and outlook, excessive traffic generation and pollution, overspilling to the wider area, lack of on-site parking, inappropriate and unattractive design, contrary to the suburban character of Ealing Centre, on the loss of the boulevard feature, increase in pollution from noise and contamination, the COVID-19 health risks of high-density blocks, social and mental issues of tall blocks, inadequate community consultation, that the DRPs were biased, that the harm to listed buildings and conservation areas is understated, the impact on social infrastructure, the lack of genuinely affordable housing that doesn't meet local need, the environmental harm from demolishing Percival House, which should be retained, that the council should not be judge and jury in its own cause. And I set out at the beginning the status of the application, Chair, that it's contrary to the neighbourhood plan, that the GLA should review its stage 1 decision in relation to the publication of the London Plan and Tall Buildings Policy D9, which suggests a different approach, which follows the next one there, that there's inadequate fire safety measures and that the commercial space would be unlettable. The part of the balancing exercise with the Heritage Impacts Chair are the public benefits of the development, and these are planning benefits, and they will be benefits that would benefit the community at large. So the 12 that are listed in the report are the regeneration of this policy allocated urban site. I think it's important to note that point, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yep, sorry, Greg.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
No, I heard a voice.
I think something happened. I don't know. Somebody.
Oh, okay, fine. Right, I'll carry on. Regeneration of this policy allocated site to create new civic offices and 477 dwellings in a highly sustainable location. 50%, 50.5% indeed, affordable housing by habitable room in a range of unit types, of which 55% are family-sized 2 and 3 bed units to help with need. A mix of affordable homes in LAR and DMR, held in perpetuity with first preference to Ealing residents. Accessible and adaptable homes. The replacement of the civic offices and community uses with a modern, energy efficient. This building will actually generate a 38% reduction in CO2 emissions, which is higher than that set down by the London Plan. A whole life cycle carbon reduction condition will help to reduce that further still, and that's in the recommendation. New business and small business space to assist startups and creative industries. Commercial flexible retail floor space that will help to with placemaking and job creation, and indeed new jobs and training. Improvements to air quality and environmental quality from what is essentially a car-free development in this area. Significant new public realm, particularly enhancements to the setting of the town hall with the new plaza entrance, and then increased public accessibility and pedestrian-friendly and cycle-friendly access, and then a heritage benefit in terms of opportunities to be able to view the Victoria Hall elevation from the public library. And if I just take you through the briefing note, Chair, which members will have, there was a correction to the text in relation to the library space. That should have said that it's library customer services core and WCs is 2,535. The library is part of that overall provision. The second correction was in relation to one of the representations, so that's really just for note. The fact that since the report was brought to you previously, Chair, in the last few weeks, a further 722 representations have been made. And then there are written representations from Mr. Colvin, who I believe is going to address you, and from Fiona Payton, from the Residents Association of Madeley and Westbury Roads, from Val Garrard, who is a resident of Aspley Court, from Will French, who has sent 2 letters, from Libby Kemp, and then also Dr. Upa Huck MP raised a procedural propriety point about the pool system, which I think you dealt at the beginning, Chair. And so coming to the end of my presentation, the scheme is for replacement civic offices, customer services and relocated public library. It's the development of 477 new homes in this highly sustainable metropolitan centre site, 50.5% of which are by have rooms are affordable dwellings, new affordable dwellings of both London affordable rent and discount market rent tenure. And importantly, 55% of which are 2 and 3 bed units for 3, 4 and 6 person families, with 251 market units, flexible commercial and business floor space typologies, environmental improvements, including exceptional design quality in this regeneration scheme, including tall buildings that will enhance the appearance of the area, supported by 2 independent DRPs and by the Council's appointed independent heritage experts, Alan Baxter. And I should add to that, of course, the extensive GLA consultation and the stage 1 referral. The placemaking benefits of the scheme, in particular the new public realm and plaza, the urban greening and biodiversity improvements of the scheme, and balancing with that the absence of significant adverse, harmful residential amenity, noise, pollution, or daylight sunlight impacts. I draw attention of the committee to the policy allocations, which I did at the beginning in the DPD and in the neighbourhood plan for the residential development and re-provision of Percival House. As I say, the support provided in the GLA stage 1, which I should note, Chair, was also done in the light of the impending approval of the London plan, and therefore Tall Buildings Policy D9 was part of the GLA appraisal. The balancing exercise, which I've set out, that the acknowledged, and by acknowledged I mean those by Historic England, Chair, as well as our own independent consultants, less than substantial harm to heritage assets, but are satisfactorily overcome by substantial public benefits of the scheme. And the recommendation would therefore be to grant planning permission subject to referral to the Secretary of State and completion of a Section 106 agreement that covers the normal range of factors that we're looking towards: school, health facilities, air quality, employment and training, open space and transport, and therefore a comprehensive mixed-use regeneration development, Chair, that will positively contribute to securing and saving Ealing Centre in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you stop screen sharing then? Okay.
No, I'm going to do that right.
And I apologize to everyone for the delay because of technical issues, but we can now move on. So we have an objector, Mr. Andrew Colvin. Sir, are you present? Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello, I'm here. Unmuted.
Okay. So you'll have 3 minutes. So when you're ready, please begin.
Okay. Good evening, councillors. This is not an objection to any redevelopment of this site. It's a direct to this particular development. The concept of tower developments was conceived in 2015. This particular development was started in 2017. We now live in a post-pandemic different world. More than 50% of the flats are private. Savills' letter of the 24th February draws attention to the success of the filmworks and the strong interest from the overseas market. Who is this accommodation actually being built for? The concept of towers occupying designated sites has never been the subject of a formal process, but has developed ad hoc on a site-by-site basis, contrary to, for example, Ealing's 2015 community involvement policy, which says well thought out and planned rather than ad hoc, and policy D9 London development. There's been consistent and vocal opposition to these trophy tower developments. They cast an unwanted and overbearing shadow. The council in 2015 and the 2020 white paper said they would consult residents in achieving a community they want to live in. A recent poll found only 7% trusted their local council to make decisions about large-scale developments that will be good for their area. Why is there no proper plan? Residents don't think they're getting planning that cherishes the past, adorns the present, or builds for the future. They're not getting the community they want to live in. Nearly 2,100 plus objections have been lodged against this scheme. Case-by-case engagement with the public is not a substitute for required policy formulation. There's been a consistent feedback that the tower block is too tall and overbearing. The housing mix is wrong. The developers acknowledge the loss of sunlight and daylight for residents of Apsley and Longfield, that this will be significant, but their loss is swept aside in the balancing exercise. There is 10% provision of flats modified for wheelchairs. There are only 15 blue badge parking spaces, a shortfall of 33 spaces. Put yourself in the position of someone badly needing mobility. There is a harmful impact on the conservation areas listed in buildings, etc. In 2009, the Secretary of State turned down the 26-storey Arcadia Tower block at Ealing Broadway, commenting on the harm to Grade 2-star Christchurch. Why is this 26-storey tower different? It is even closer. Even after tweaking, there is still a clear failure to provide family-size accommodation for Ealing's poorest families.
Hi, sorry to interrupt. You have 30 seconds remaining.
The need is identified in your council's housing surveys. These families could not afford to live here. The social and private housing elements are segregated from each other. Why? It is like putting all the children on assisted school meals at a comprehensive school in one house and all the others in other houses. You would not dream of doing that, but a borough that trumpets its equality policy is doing that here. Why? Marcus Rashford wouldn't approve. There are clear grounds for objection to this application. It contains fatal flaws. This application does not cherish the past, it does not adorn the present, and it does not provide a future for Ealing's poorest families. The council continue to promote this development, notwithstanding these fatal flaws. Approval leaves you open to legal challenge. Thank you, Chair. I can't hear anybody else.
Sheetal, you're on mute, Sheetal.
Yeah, apologies. Sarah, are you there? Sarah?
I'm here, Chair.
Okay, you have same 3 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to respond to some of the points raised by members at the recent committee. As officers have highlighted, the uplift in affordable 3-bed homes now results in a significant improvement to the mix, particularly to those homes available at London affordable rent, with 20% of them now provided as 3-bed homes. The delivery of 50% affordable housing remains a key benefit. All of the affordable homes will be acquired by the council, with affordable tenures secured at levels that address local housing need, protected in perpetuity in line with London affordable rent levels. They will be available for those families on Ealing's housing list. All of the discount market rent will be capped at a maximum of 66% of market rent, with a household income cap of £60,000 in line with Mayor Khan's requirements for intermediate housing. Both affordable tenures are considered genuinely affordable under the Mayor's definition and will address the existing local varied housing need. In terms of sales, at Vistry, our strategy remains one of a UK domestic market first, with a focus on providing homes to local people in Ealing as our first priority through intensive local marketing. This ensures that local people from all walks of life can take advantage of the fantastic opportunity of having Ealing Broadway on their doorstep. These proposals are the product of an extensive design process and have been conceived through working closely with Ealing Council's planning and design officers, the GLA, statutory consultees including Historic England, and 2 sessions with the Ealing Design Review Panel, who were overwhelmingly positive. They said, what is being created in the Percival House scheme is a piece of townscape rather than just a development. The DRP continue to be hugely supportive of and enthusiastic about this project and the approach of the client and design teams. In terms of sustainability, there will be a 48% reduction in operational carbon emissions, with the remaining emissions offset by the Council's Carbon Fund to achieve net zero. Embodied carbon will be reduced over the life cycle of the building through the use of low carbon materials, prefabricated and recycled construction materials. More than 97% of the materials will be diverted from landfill. On fire safety, please be assured that Vistry take this extremely seriously. We've been proactive in engaging with MHCLG, the HSE and the National Fire Chiefs Council and the GLA about gateway requirements of the new fire safety regulations. In respect of this Percival House application, the London Fire Brigade raised no objection and we will continue to liaise with them during the detailed design stage. A building regulations application will also be submitted to and determined by the Council's building control team. And finally, the coming months will see Ealing residents seeking to return to normal after a year of lockdown. While some things will change, the need for an affordable place to live, places to work and shop will not. If anything, COVID has increased the desire for people to live, work and shop locally. This scheme responds to that desire to stay local and delivers all of that in the heart of Ealing Broadway. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I have the ward councillor who's indicated she wants to speak. Councillor Kumar.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to concentrate on what this development will mean for the people in my ward, the people I'm here to represent who will live literally in the shadow of the development. Hundreds of occupiers living nearby will experience a significant loss of daylight to their homes. Due to the complexity of the application documents, many occupiers do not realize this. Looking at the application, the daylight impact study, though claiming to be objective, has obviously been written to support their case. It says 35 properties are, in their words, relevant for assessment, but this includes 8 blocks of flats, a number of homes ranging from Vernon Court, a 1960s sheltered housing block, the 1930s Longfield House, and Apsley House, which has affordable housing. These will be totally overwhelmed by this monster block. I'm going to share some words from 3 audio recordings sent to me by my elderly residents living in Apsley House, whose sincere and touching words were not allowed to be heard. Carol, living in Apsley House, says the development will have a negative impact on the residents of Apsley House in Dickens Yard. Most of the residents are over 70, many in their 80s, and some over 90. These residents moved for a peaceful life and may be the last move they ever make. The development will block daylight and sunshine for them, and also loss of privacy. The high-rise block will not fit in with the character of the area. She says, I lived in a tower block for 23 years where lifts broke down, stairwells were awash with urine and antisocial behavior. It was bleak. Most tower blocks have a rise in crime and result in more stress and mental health issues. Vandalism is high, and I can vouch for that. Another who lives right opposite, sitting in her chair in a sunny flat with a nice view from her window, saying, please don't make me suffer more than I have and take the daylight and sun away. She says, are we expected to sit in the dark all the time? It will cause depression amongst other health issues for the 70 residents over 65 living in Apsley House, many of whom are unable to go outdoors. I do not know what else to say to convince you not to go ahead with this application. And another resident who says, my life is going to change and suffering from depression will get worse. We rely on the sun for warmth. We are pensioners, but also citizens and your constituents. I know the economy is on edge, but people matter as well. Another resident said, I've always loved Ealing and accepted this brand new flat as my retirement home. After all, I had beaten cancer, had my knee replacement, and this was my time to enjoy my life. Sadly, it was not to be. After I moved, I endured 8 years of works around me. Now further plans are in place to develop Percival House. We have been duped from day one and never told the truth. They speak very powerfully and convey truth to power. Buried in the study is the admission homes here will experience a loss of daylight and sunlight in excess of the industry requirements. The authors claim this is acceptable due to Ealing's inner area location or because of the development's metropolitan town centre site. This is wrong. Ealing is not an inner area. It is an historic suburban town centre. The report does not consider either how such a huge scheme will impact on the conservation area as it is required to do. Gordon Road, part of the Haven Green Conservation, has been declared at risk by Historic England. It is pretty obvious to me and residents in my ward who have objected that the development of this scale will cause real harm to the character of the area. It will dominate over existing building. It is incredible to me that the local street system is not to be modified as a result of this development. The existing turning bans strongly opposed by local residents into and out of Longfield Road are to remain in place. So it means that all the traffic to the site coming or going from the North Circular Road is forced to reach it through the residential streets. They run completely against the policies that the council has been proclaiming in its LTN program. Instead of keeping traffic out that shouldn't be on residential streets, it is actively encouraging them back into the streets. Demands on all this will surely become a recipe
Hi,
for...
Councillor, sorry, you have 30 seconds left.
This seems very inconsistent for a council that positions itself as leading the fight against climate change. I hope the powerful words of appeal from my Apsley House residents has made you realize the huge impact this monster block will have on them, bearing in mind over 20,000 residents over 2,000 residents who've signed a petition. I would urge the committee to reject this aggressive proposal and come back with a more sympathetic, thorough and openly consulted proposal and put an end to the misery of our residents.
Okay, thank you. Can I just confirm with the committee that you are able to hear all the contributions being made so far and you've not had any issues? Because I have picked up some messages saying on YouTube it's buffering and that people can't pick up. Is there anybody who's not being able to listen and hear properly, especially, most importantly, members of the committee? Can you let me know? Any issues?
No issues.
We can hear. I mean, I think members of the committee would use the chat in those circumstances.
Yes,
So,
I haven't picked up anything, so I just want to make 100% certain that all committee members have heard all the contributions and not had any issues.
Chair?
Yes?
Chair?
Yep. Councillor Ward? Councillor Ward?
Yeah, I had an issue. I dropped out for a while because my computer restarted, but I've heard everything because I went straight onto Councillor Raywall's laptop, so I didn't miss anything.
Okay, that's helpful. Okay, so we now have the MP, Rupa Huq MP. Rupa?
The question this development plan since 2017 after a 2015 cabinet paper begs is, do the assumptions it was based on then apply now? With 10,000 on Ealing's housing waiting list and the council's strategic housing market reviews stating that family homes should be prioritised, it's great that these have been upped to 28 3-beds of the 477, but that's still just 5%. And we've heard about the play space limitations below standards. This does hit the 50% affordable requirement that the mayor sets for any development on public land as a minimum, 50% to fast track applications, but that is mostly by 156 discount market rent, which if you ask people in Dickens Yard on the same product, because it's a high percentage of a high value area, it's unstable when circumstances change. And Sadiq Khan even himself has said it should be phased out. It's a dodgy definition of affordable. Of the 251 speculative sale properties, when I told the developer on the 11th that every estate agent I speak to in Ealing tells me that flats with no patio garden and parking are just not selling, I was told this is not for them. It's a different price point and different market. The Savills letter proves that. Alarm bells, a 26-storey tower out of all character with low density Ealing, plonked there in spite of local opposition, sticking out like a sore thumb, marketed to international investors on our public land? Really? In truth, it's the library and new council offices that are driving all these figures. Number of blocks, dwellings, stories, something that will change Ealing forever. So there is a way, and that is a reconsideration. Is 17,249 square meters of office space still right when every big firm is now downsizing office space, even the Palace of Westminster Parliamentary Estate? Ditto libraries, the requirement now with cloud facilities is very different to what it was in 2017. It is folly to assume everything will be as before, with new variants and coronaviruses to come, or to pin everything onto Crossrail as Dickens Yard with its multiple empty properties and unlet retail demonstrates. This is not like other proposals. Its public space, scope, scale and location means that it affects every citizen of Ealing, and our municipal legacy is at risk here. So we've heard about the significant loss of light for Apsley House. They're a statutory consultee and pensioners, a lot of them not able to be among those 2,000 objections. And of the 325 documents, nothing about the carbon emissions generated by construction, which is now a Mayor of London requirement from last week. Look, we can avoid all this less than substantial harm level of loss, and we can still have an exciting library and new offices, but at an appropriate scale. And flexibility, if you ask them in Brent, they've still got swathes of office space, difficult to shift, because commercial companies don't want to come in with a public authority, with the local authority. Or, you know, ask Croydon, where the council went bankrupt after too ambitious property dabbling. So my proposal is, you know, I recognise time has been spent, money has been spent, work's been done. So let's bring this back at an appropriate scale. There is no expiry date that requires it to be today, I keep asking, and do this in June. It would be imprudent to rush now when in June, if we do the work, so a comprehensive staff needs accommodation and library assessment for now the most up-to-date evidence, follow the science. And, you know, by then Ealing Broadway will have a third councillor. That's been missing a long time. Who knows, there could even be a change of mayoralty, I'm hoping not, or round Ealing's cabinet table, the faces may be different, because we're only going to get one chance for a development that will irreversibly change Ealing forever. And to secure our municipal heritage and future-proof this, a root and branch
30 seconds remaining
is needed, up-to-date consultation. I understand the pressure that councillors are under to do this today, housing targets, letting the side down, the flagship nature of the status, the fact it's been years in the works, and an impatient developer, but that's precisely why we should take stock and pause now before it's too late, only until June. And let's try and negotiate not just the budget option that, you know, the fire service raised no objection to, what's legally compliant, but the best for our town centre, not just be another notch in the bedpost of a developer who puts up, you know, identical blocks all over. So I beg that this be deferred for a review of council staffing and library services before it passes. I want this brought back in June. And may I just say, is it an all-at-once decant? Because the cabinet paper for next week says that, but the officer said the opposite. So there is a mismatch here, because I've been through all the 325 documents. So I'd like some clarity on that. But anyway, you know, we don't want to have a buyer's remorse situation. We want the best for our town centre. I've been here since 1972. Let's do this, but not today. Let's do the evidence-based review and then go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I am aware that the slides for Andrew Calvin were not shown. Andrew, would it be okay if we actually showed them briefly for members of the committee just to look? I know we've also received them by email and I've looked at them, but I apologize that your slides were not shown the same time as you were speaking. Would that be suitable?
Apologies, Chair. I'm very happy to repeat the whole of my speech if you'd like me to, in case nobody got the subtle points.
Well, okay, look, I want to be as, you know, generous as I can in terms of the objection.
Chair, you understand the points I was making. I think they came across clearly. I hope you understood what I was saying. There are no technical glitches. By all means, just show them. But frankly, it's been said. The MP.
I think I just want to show them because I think it's important.
No, you show
all
them.
the issues.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. So can we just go through them?
Chair, that one shows the people who were the 16 local groups and associations that were being represented in what I said. Obviously, they put in their own submissions as well, and you're all well aware of that. Next slide, please.
Okay.
I went through these points. They're the points that the MP made. They're the points that I made. They're the points that can be made and remain to be made. I believe they have considerable force. I agree with the MP. This decision should not be taken tonight. I think it would be wholly wrong. I think it should be taken away and reconsidered in the light of these points. Thank you, Chair. I then come to my third slide, which is the balance. I think the right conclusion would be not to grant planning permission tonight. I think there's plenty of grounds to say measured reconsideration would be the right approach. What you have before you is not the right approach and would leave a legacy that will not be good for Ealing. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, before I'm going to move on to questions, but I think it's important because we spent 2 hours some time on the last committee meeting with questions. The one issue was the housing tenure mix and the affordable housing mix. I really want to nail that issue down to the core so the committee understands the issue. We do have David Baptiste from our housing department, I think he's our assistant director. So before we move to questions, I just want to go through this issue around affordable housing and the tenure mix and what our housing department thinks of this offer. So David, can you just talk us through that before we move to questions and then debate, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Chair, if I can help Mr. Baptiste, what I might do is put the slides up from my presentation and then Mr. Baptiste can speak to those. Would you like to do that, Dave?
Yes, that's fine.
I think that's very helpful because just introduce yourself and tell us who you are, David, because I know you're the director, but it's really important people know.
So Dave Baptist, I'm the head of housing development. I think you've promoted me there, Chair.
Apologies.
And one of my responsibilities is to negotiate and discuss affordable housing to improve the offer of affordable housing and secure affordable housing across the borough. So that's principally with developers and housing associations, and even the council's own kind of delivery program where it delivers affordable housing. So my focus is obviously just on affordable housing. I think the points have been well made by Mr. Gray and others about the change to this offer since the last time it was presented before members. And from my perspective, this is an improved offer, substantially improved offer. For the reasons that have been mentioned previously, it secures more family-sized dwellings, in the three-bed categories. But if you add, as has already been said, the twos and threes, the majority of the homes in the affordable envelope are aimed at family accommodation. And if you just look at the London affordable rent, that proportion is even higher. The table in front of you now talks about, it breaks down, and this is another vantage point of this offer. It actually just simplifies what's being offered. So what's being offered is London affordable rent, which is the same rent charge across London for 1 bed, 2 bed and 3 bed, as you can see there. And it's got a corresponding column which indicates the kind of incomes people in working households who could afford this rent. And as already been mentioned, the housing register which is always a big list of people who are in housing need, and the council has statutory responsibility to house. I think when you boil down the most acute, they surround about 2,000 people. And crucially, the housing register and the housing need of the council operates in a way that the council needs to address people in housing need, and there is an income cap. So anybody earning over £60,000 wouldn't be offered accommodation by the council in its kind of affordable housing options. And what you'll see from this table is the affordability is indicated. There is no rents which would trigger an income above £60,000. And I think it's important just to say that, because sometimes homelessness and housing need is caricatured as people who are not working. It's a complicated mixed bag, but there are a number of households who are working and would dearly love the opportunity to afford some low-cost housing. So the discount market rent falls in that category. It's regarded as affordable housing. It's housing in perpetuity. So from our perspective, it's actually an improved position from what was considered previously of London living rents, where this housing would move into a sales product after 10 years. So what you will see in that table is reasonable rents, good rents in the low cost bracket, to allow people, including 3 beds, which is a significant change from the last time, to move into those homes and to be able to enjoy living in a central Ealing location. Is there another slide, Greg, or is this the main one?
The only other slide, Dave, was the preceding one, which gives the various tenures. I don't know if you want to talk to that.
No, I think I've indicated that in terms of simplicity, this has moved on. There's London affordable rent and discount market rent. Both are in the envelope of affordable homes, and homes that are aimed at people on low cost incomes, and the rents speak for themselves in that sense.
Okay, thank you, David. Now I think what we'll do is we'll just do the fly through of the development, so people have a view of what it would look like when it was built. So after that, we'll move to questions and then debate. So can we put up that fly through? I hope it's not going to be buffered for the people outside, but we've got to try. So shall we put that up?
Yeah, I believe it is buffing outside at the moment.
It's moving slowly, but it does move. So
no, on the external YouTube, what is people outside?
well, I can only apologize to external people, but I want the committee to see it. So the committee's seeing it. I'm going to have to go with it because it's important for the committee to see it.
Okay.
Okay, right. We move to questions. Can I say to all the committee members are now obliged or are able to ask questions, and I can't. I wouldn't expect anybody else, any contributors, to please take part. You're there to listen, but not take part now in the meeting. It's up to the committee to work through the rest of these issues. So I'm asking first of all for questions. I've got two indications, but what I would say is I need it on material planning considerations and not the wider perspective. This planning committee needs to look at planning considerations and not other issues. So I see Councillor Ray Wall, Josh Blacker and Councillor Young. So I'll go in that order. Ray?
Can you hear me? Yeah. So a couple of questions have been answered by Dave Baptiste, but one is the slide on what was deemed the slide on pepper potting. It wasn't the slide on pepper potting at all. It was the slide on occupation and pepper potting. It wasn't the full story because the flats are not pepper potted, in my view, and I heard the objector say that too. So a couple of questions really. Why aren't we doing the pepper potting on our own site? And the officers may have known that I was going to ask that question, so I would expect a good answer on that. The cycle parking underground, is it? Do you have to go through a lift to get to the cycle parking underground, or is there a way? Is there a ramp down? Just want to ask that question. The officer presenting said he'd come back to the shortfall in private amenity space, which he didn't come back to. Not that if I missed it, apologies, but I'd like to go back to the shortfall in private amenity space. Yeah, I was going to ask about why the trees are always in the way, but he's answered that. The separation distances between the blocks that we're going to have, I saw 11 meters as the nearest one. between new blocks. Is that the case? And is there any overlooking within that 11 metres? And I think there was another one 13 metres. And just a general, it's very hard to work this one out really, is the carbon offset footprint over the lifetime. Are we worse off in terms of the carbon footprint, or are we better off? I know the speaker for the development talked about that. I just wanted to be clear where we are, because we keep getting emails about how by knocking it down, we're making we're not adhering to our own plans. But anyway, those are the questions for now.
Okay, I'll take Councillor Blacker next.
Thanks, Chair. Two quite quick ones. The table of rent levels, the LAR excluded service charges, whereas the DMR product included them. Can I ask, firstly, why? And if the obvious answer would be that LAR doesn't pay service charges, but if they do, and I'm assuming they probably do, what impact that would have on the affordability in terms of the percentage of income. The second one then is on the housing mix. I know there has been a change since the meeting last month, but I know there's a lot of discussion about AMRs and current housing need in the borough and what mix we actually recommend. So can I ask, what is the current mix recommended by officers across the borough, and whether this application meets that need? Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Young, can I just wait, because there's a lot of questions Councillor Wall and Councillor Blacker have asked. So I'll take two. I'll get the officer to reply back, and then I'll come back to you, because I don't want to overload or too many questions in one go. So can we ask Councillor, Gregory, could you come back on those issues?
I will do, Chair, and I will do it by reference to the slideshow, because I think it'll be better to do it visually, and then I could leave it up for Councillor Blacker's questions as well, because it tends to be based on the table. So I'm going to share the slideshow with you again. I think with regard to Councillor Wall's question about pepper potting, he said that he couldn't see pepper potting in the scheme, and I wasn't entirely clear whether he meant because there wasn't enough mix between different tenure types and private, or that there wasn't enough within individual buildings. So I've turned this image up again, Chair, to show you how the tenures are mixed within the scheme. So these numbers that are here, Chair, against each phase does not indicate that building B2 is only London affordable rent and building B1 is only private. It is because in each phase 2 blocks are built, and within those 2 blocks, that's the total provision. So they are distributed within each of the blocks, and in fact within each of the blocks, the first 7 floors are normally allocated to the affordable housing of whatever mix, and then that's shared then with market housing above it. So that applies equally through the phases. And if Councillor Wall's unhappy with that answer, then I'll try and answer it better. So does that answer your question, Councillor?
Sorry, am I being stupid here? Looking at the report, I looked at them, and the blocks were either fully private or fully unaffordable rent, or I've obviously not read it the way that this is set out in the table in front of me, because I believed that this was just how the construction phases were, i.e. we'll build 2 blocks, one will be LAR and one will be private, and that's why it looked to me, this table. So just clear it up for me. Are we mixing blocks with different tenures, i.e. private and London affordable discount rent, etc., or are we having separate blocks with separate tenures?
No,
Oops. Greg, you just cut out. Gregory? Katie?
He might hear you.
He can't hear. I think he's just gone. He's muted himself. Gregory, you've muted yourself.
With
Ray, what I picked up, what he was saying was that the first seven stories of each the block would be sort of shared ownership and not shared ownership.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be clear.
So every
because
building
that was one of the objectives.
Mixed. Every building will be mixed.
No, it won't, Chair. I don't believe the tower block will be mixed. Can we let the officer answer the question?
Yeah,
and
I'm just waiting for him to come back.
Yeah, but it's better to get a clearer.
No, I understand, but that's what I picked up with his answer. But let's just confirm that.
Thank you, Chair. I think the issue is with the slideshow. I think it takes up too much bandwidth. So what I'm going to try and do is take. Sorry, Councillor Wall, did I get anywhere near answering your question?
No, I think you just need to explain what how each building is.
Hear you. Right, Councillor Wall, if I take you to page 13 of the committee report, please.
Get in there. Hold on.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, there's a table there, which is actually the table I was showing you on the slideshow, and I think that might be the one. So what I was explaining to you there is that the table, within each phase, 2 buildings are constructed, and that each phase comprises a range of market and affordable units. But those buildings are not exclusively for those tenures. It was written down like that so that you could see what tenures were available, would be available within each of those phases. So in other words, phase 1 would comprise of 2 blocks, which together will comprise 28 private and 67 London affordable rent. But the tenure blocks.
Sorry, rather than I can see the table in front of me. Forget phase 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Look at building 1, 2, 5, 6, 3, 4. I see them as separate buildings. I see them as separate tenures, because on the right-hand side, for building 1 is 28 private. For building 2 is 67 London affordable. Is that correct? Yeah. So
no, that's not
the building to sell.
Yeah. It's not. No, the first 7 floors of each block, which has affordable housing in it, has affordable housing on the first 7 floors, and then the upper floors, where there are more than 7, have the market housing in them. So they are physically within the same building.
Well, it's like you asked the question, because that's not what I read here. So we are genuinely pepper potting, is that correct? So
which is correct.
All buildings are pepper potted, is that correct?
That is correct. Where there are mixed tenures, then that is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Sorry, Councillor. process one of those things with the tables. I'll try and deal with your other questions from the committee report. Actually, no, I might be able to answer it here. You were asking me about cycle parking. There is also ramp access if someone wants to use it. If it would be at the front of the civic offices building facing onto Uxbridge Road, if you look at the front of the building on the left-hand side, as it were, next to Longfield House, there is a secondary access there. It's a fire escape access, and what it's got is a cycle ramp within the staircase. So you can come out of that if you are not using either the one within the civic offices or the one within the residential scheme. That's the lift, by the way. So you've got essentially two lifts, one ramp.
Okay.
And then you said to me that I'd indicated that there's a shortfall in private amenity space. What I said was that the private amenity space as balconies is fully compliant, but the play space is not compliant. There is a shortfall. So maybe I said amenity when I meant to say play rather than when I meant to say private. So all flats have balconies. Sorry, Councillor. Yeah.
Did I hear you were going to come back to it in the presentation?
I think
was
you
there
probably
something?
So there wasn't any more to say. I'm happy to say it again. Apologies if I sounded like I was going to say more. And then you were asking about separation distances between the blocks. And there's an image in the committee report. If you just bear with me a second, please, I'll find it, because then I can talk to it with you at the same time. Sorry, need to find it.
Okay,
right. Yeah, it's on page 97, Councillor.
Right, I'm getting there slowly, but I'm getting there.
Right.
Bear with me.
Yeah.
Very slowly, sorry.
That's all right. It's an awful lot faster than the slideshow.
I'll be there. 90 what?
97, I think that's it. 97, yeah.
Good year.
Yeah, I think it's 11 meters, Greg, between block 2 and
yes.
5. And
yeah, I'm on 7, Greg.
Yeah, a waterfall to answer his question.
Yes.
You got it, have you?
Yes, I have, Greg. Thank you.
And the short answer is that there are no flank windows on block B6 at that 11-meter separation distance, and likewise with B4 and B6 as well. So there are no flank windows on the walls of those two blocks. So there's no direct overlooking.
Okay, thank you.
Just have a look to see if I had another. Oh yes, you asked about the carbon footprint and over the lifetime of the development. Is this a more efficient building? And I think the short point is yes, it is, and it's a more efficient building for a number of reasons. But the primary one is that the existing building does not reflect in any way modern construction and operational standards. And I set out in the presentation why the new building is designed to minimise its carbon footprint. And that is an immediate benefit, notwithstanding the demolition side. You have seen a lot of reports saying that there's embedded carbon within the buildings, and that may be the case. But the reality is that those buildings are not getting any more efficient. New buildings are all efficient, and we also have within the planning considerations and planning conditions relating to whole lifetime carbon recycling. So in essence, the building is designed so that to demonstrate over its lifetime that it will have a low carbon footprint. So the best way to achieve the best from this site is not to keep the existing, but to replace it with something that's fit for the future.
Okay, thank you, Greg.
That's all right. Councillor Blacker's questions. If it's all right with you, Councillor Blacker, I'll defer to Dave Baptiste, please.
David?
Yes, if I've got these questions right, Councillor Backer, I think the first point was that the service charges are not included in London affordable rent, and that's correct. the London affordable rent is prescribed, and they don't include service charges. It's a bit of a guess as to what the service charge levels will be, but we anticipate they'll be around about the £20 to £25 per week level. So that would, as an envelope, obviously increase that rent. But consequently, for the discount market rent, that includes service charges. So whatever the service charges are, that is the actual rent. And sorry, the other point you made was about the, if I've got this right, the mix that we would be looking for. I'm not sure if I've got that point correct. Is that, do you mean?
Blacker, do you want to just indicate what was the second point?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done an AMR for ages. We don't actually know what the housing mix delivered in the borough is. So, you know, there's a question about what is the current housing mix need? So how many 3 beds do we need, 2 beds, 1 beds, and what has been delivered? And therefore, you know, to what extent is this scheme meeting that need?
Right. I haven't got a complete breakdown here, but for family units, meaning 3 beds and above, it's 38%, and for 3 beds specifically, it's 24%, and then there's a split of the remainder 62% between 1 and 2 beds. So the majority of the need is for 1 and 2 beds, but in terms of people waiting a long time, they wait longer for the larger family homes, particularly 4s and 5s.
So, David, can I get that right then? So the majority of the need in Ealing is for 1 and 2 bedrooms, 62% is the need. Is that right?
Yes, that's according to the latest kind of evidence-based data.
Okay. I mean, I think that's helpful because I think there's been a lot of, shall we say, comment that the majority of the need is for 3 bedroom, but obviously that's not the case then. Is that right?
It's not. The fairest point is that there's a broad-based need because people's concerns and households come in different shapes and sizes. But there is, yes, probably not well known that there is a high need for 1s and 2 beds, but equally there is quite a lot of need for other family units, which is why we talk about across the borough as opposed to each scheme. We don't really anticipate that every scheme can fulfill that exact mix.
Okay, all right. Councillor Young?
Thank you, Chair. I've got 3 questions on construction, and the third one will depend on the answers to the first 2 questions. First is, what is to prevent construction traffic coming from the north over the Longfield Avenue Bridge? Is there a planning condition in there? And if so, where is it in the papers before us? The second is to do with the traffic going south. Has there been any analysis of the capacity of the Longfield Avenue Uxbridge Road junction to cope with the traffic, the construction traffic, especially as the band turns will make it very difficult? And in doing so, have they looked to see what the traffic will do? Will they be turning elsewhere? Will they be going up St Leonard's Road instead to try and go north? Has there been any work done on where the construction traffic will go to? Those are the first 2 questions, Chair.
What I would say, Councillor Young, you're aware that that's usually part of a condition in a construction management plan. It's not usually something the planning committee would get too involved in because there's always a condition. Is there a condition, Greg?
Yes, there is, Chair, yes.
And it's a construction management plan condition, isn't it? Is it?
It's a construction management plan condition, Chair. Yes, the applicant has indicated potential routes, but as you say, there would be a condition to regulate that. And if it was the instruction of committee to regulate it to use only certain roads, then obviously that's their prerogative.
I'm not sure the committee normally would do that because we're not experts in terms of...
We know that when we did the Dickens Yard development, there was a condition placed that the construction traffic, Dickens Yard could not come from the north over the Longfield Avenue Bridge. So what I'm asking is that condition in this planning application or not?
The short answer to that question is no. The applicant's draft construction management plan contemplates construction traffic coming and entering and leaving via Uxbridge Road, but does not single out Longfield as a potential means of access. I would say, Chair, of course, that that the draft construction management plan has been examined by our transport section, and they have not raised any concerns with it with regard to capacity or other constraints.
Okay.
Given the report you gave on the method of construction earlier about decanting from one part of Percival House to the other, how is that changed by the report that's going to Cabinet next week?
I'm not aware of the report that is going to Cabinet next week, Chair. I'm only working to the planning application that we have in front of us, which shows a phased development. And without being presumptuous, that's what's before committee tonight as well.
Yeah, can I come in there? David Schofield, AD on planning. Yeah, it is recognised that the Cabinet report for next week presents a different phasing. However, the issues to do with that phasing are as my colleague Greg has said, part of the overall mix within the construction and demolition management plan. So in terms of traffic movements and all the other details relating to that, any change in phasing there can be picked up in that. And indeed, any change in phasing doesn't fundamentally affect the principles of the development itself, or what officers are asking you to consider in terms of the overall mix of the scheme or the benefits or otherwise, Chair.
But it does mean that the report that we have before us tonight has been superseded by events. And it does bring into play Dr. Huck's suggestion that we defer this matter for further consideration.
Councillor Young, I'm not sure that, not quite what they...
Chair, if I could just come back.
Can I help the committee here, Chair? Yep. Condition 4 of the recommendation is a phasing plan condition. And it basically sets out that a plan is to be submitted to and approved by the authority. So what you have before you tonight, as I've been at pains to stress, is a plan that's within the application, but condition 4 of the recommendation is that a phasing plan be submitted to and approved by the authority. So should it be the will of Cabinet, for example, to approach it in a different way, but you're not prejudiced, in my opinion, by making a decision, because condition 4 would pick that up.
And obviously it could come back to the chair if they did want to change the phasing plan.
Well, which is exactly what condition 4 contemplates, Chair, that there would be a prior approval if there were any changes to the phasing.
I think that's fine, so we can move on. Councillor Nand.
Thank you, Chair. I firstly want to, I've got 3 or 4 questions, but they're not long questions. It's not a speech. Firstly, I'd like to see in the go back to the report again and see the slide for the impact of Aspley Court, the light impact. Just like to see that again. Also, I'd like to get to know the formula that's being used to achieve 55% of affordable homes in the report. I'm assuming it's the addition of LAR and DMR added together. But I need clarification on that, please, because I perhaps might be getting a different figure to what's on the report. Well, I do want to request and find out how the mix has been determined for the new 3-bedroom apartments. It seems to me it's just a massage of the figures of LAR and DMR, and nothing's been touched in the private sector. Just clarification, am I right in seeing that? And further, the blue badge issue, there's only 2 blue badges for the whole council visitors that might be attending or coming to the library. What basis has been used again on that? I mean, it's a car-free zone, but we are really being democratic to the blue badge holders. So those are my questions for now, sir. Thank you.
Okay, then I'll come to Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask, please, about the staff car parking situation? Because I've just stressed that I'm not concerned here about staff wanting to drive into work from home or drive home again. Because I'm just really concerned about here is because I do really want to promote the fact that we do need to have different modes of transport and we do need to travel differently. All I would like to stress is that there are members of staff who will need to use their car in the process of their work in order to drive around the borough and to visit different sites. So I just want to ensure that we do make sure that staff are well looked after if they do need to do that. And I don't want to end up with staff being forced to pay out of their own pocket in order to park in other parking spaces, if that's what it ends up coming to. I mean, I can just give an example of this past week that someone pointed out to me that there was someone who'd had an issue with some paving stones in Hanwell where they tripped over and broken some bones, and they wanted to have that looked at. And of course, the officers have been brilliant and looked at the job very quickly and are going to sort that out. But then, of course, it does make you think that if they can't drive to these places, can they actually get to these spots and actually see all the problems that need to be done in the space of their work? So I just want to make sure the staff are looked after in that perspective, in that element of their employment. Just because I think I made a similar point the last meeting, sorry, but I'm not entirely sure if it came across as well as it should have done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wall, Lauren Wall.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Blacker actually asked a lot of the question that I wanted to ask, and David Baptiste answered it. But if I can just flesh that out, I wanted to ask about exactly how this is meeting the need for housing in the borough in terms of what's on the waiting list. And I know that 2/3 of the people on the list are wanting 1 and 2 bedroom properties. But can David Baptiste, I think, just kind of explain how long the average wait might be for a 1 and 2 bedroom place for those people, please?
Okay, so Greg, I'll come to you first to do the bits that you can do, and then we go back to David.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, for Councillor Annan, if we go back to, I don't want to get the slides up, Chair, because I'm slightly concerned. I think that's what's causing a problem with the computer. Fortunately, I hope I can answer Councillor Annan's question on the
Chair.
report. 97.
Yes. Sorry,
which page, Greg?
97, Councillor Annan.
So page 7.
97, I think. 97. You were asking me about the distances, the separation.
Distances, it's the light issues.
It's the light impact. I'd like to see a photograph of that, please.
A photograph. Sorry, a photograph of what, Councillor?
The impact of Aspie Court. We've seen photographs of the other impacts, but I would just like to see the impact of Aspie Court again.
I think he means that daylight sunlight.
Yeah, I mean.
That slide.
Appendix 3, the report.
Would it be in the appendix on the?
Yes, I think Councillor Young's directed us to the sunlight daylight report.
Yeah, I mean, like on page 25, we have lots of pictures of different impacts of different properties. I just like to see a picture of Aspie Court. That's all. I mean, on page 26, we see how Craven Park is affected, Craven Avenue. I'd like to see Aspie Court.
I'm sorry, page 26 of what, Councillor Annan?
The report shows the impact to Craven Avenue, a photograph, but I'm just trying to see where's the photograph, the impact to Aspie Court.
I'm sorry, Councillor, you'll excuse me. You're referring me to page 26 of the officer report, is that right?
Of the committee report, yes.
The committee report, yeah.
Now, similarly, what I'm asking is there a picture in the report for Aspie Court, the impact that they will suffer?
I'm just looking.
Because in the light report, they're significantly affected. I remember you showing the green, the pink,
slide, yes.
Yeah, pink
Yes.
slide. But have we got an image that we can look at?
Well, Councillor Anand, there's a whole appendix on daylight sunlight. It goes through.
No, I've read the report. I'm just asking for the photograph.
Well, I will need time. I will need time to find a photograph. Of course, I will not be able to show. It will only be a photograph. It cannot be a photograph from within any of the properties. It could only be a view from ground level in the street, because of course we don't have any right to go into any of the properties and see what the impacts are. So apologies if I'm misunderstanding you.
Yeah, but is there any view? Is there any view in the report to show the impact? As we're seeing on page 23, we are seeing the impacts. Can we see anything that's actually shows Aspie Court?
Yeah, Chair, it'd be helpful. I think the committee can imagine the view.
Yes. No, we're not here to imagine.
The building is directly opposite the entrance to the building Anne's referring to. It's not a matter of speculation what it would look like from there, I think, is it?
Yeah,
I've got
that's what I'm wondering. I mean, imagine it up there, and
it'll be pretty dark and gloomy. In other words,
there is. I'm just going to try and say I'm just cautious about getting the slides out again, but I'm having a look to see.
Let's try, Greg. Just try the slide.
Okay. Well, let's try, and forgive me if it. So, are we sharing?
That's the one.
So that's the image there, and then you have the two images to the right of that, which are 3D images showing the relationship of the buildings to each other. So you can see the relationship. The bottom right hand image on that shows you the physical relationship of the block to Aspie Court.
Councillor Anand, can you see that?
Yes, Chair.
I think that's
not exactly what I wanted to see, but yeah,
well, we can't show anything else, I don't think, because we can't go into people's flats.
No, but we could have done a street view as we've done with the other properties, because this was materially impacted. So I thought we could have actually shown some demonstration. We can't imagine things. I'm sorry, but I can't imagine things. That's what's been mentioned already.
Okay, all right, but that's all we have. So can we move on to the next question?
The next question concerns the calculation of 55% affordable homes, Councillor.
Okay, so can you stop screen sharing and go back?
I'm going to come out of the slideshow before I lose you.
Yep. David?
Would you like me to take that? Okay.
Yeah.
I may have got this wrong, but I think any reference to 55% was talking about the family accommodation, meaning two and 3 beds. If that's what you're referring to, Councillor Anand, then that is calculated by looking at just at the affordable envelope and the proportion of 2s and 3 beds. So I actually make it 56%. I make it 127 homes in the 2 and 3 bed category, and then you divide that by the total number of affordable homes, 226.
Is that helpful, Councillor Anand?
Well, look, if I was adding LAR and DMR together as residential mix by habitable room, I get 50.5% as the report suggests. But if I'm adding now the total of London affordable rent and discounted market rent, which is 70 and 156, I get 47%. So I don't get the 50%. So what I'm asking, that's the formula is working by habitable room at 50.5%. But it's not working when I do the same thing by the housing mix. It's coming to 47%.
Councillor Anand, it's not number of units. It's by habitable room that measurement comes out.
It was mentioned in the report. If you go back to the summary report, it was mentioned by habitable room, we get 50.5%.
Yes.
And then it was mentioned by residential mix, but by residential mix, it was mentioned 50%, so, or 55%, when I'm actually getting 47%.
I think there's a confusion.
If I can help, Chair, the 55% is achieved by adding together the percentage of 2-bedroom affordable units, irregardless of affordable tenure, which is 43% of 2-bed units, regardless of affordable tenure, and 3-bed units of affordable tenure is 12% of that. Add the two together and you get to 55.
Okay, so it's clarified. It's part 55% of 50.5%, not the total. Is that right?
It's correct. It's a numerical 55%, not a percent, not a. As you said,
that explains it. That explains it. It's a numerical. It's not of the total, because if you do it with the total, you get 47%.
Exactly, Chair.
Next issue.
I think the next one was for Dave as well, Chair.
Yeah. I think Councillor Anand asked how was the mix determined for the 3-bed, because I mean, I think as you've rightly seen, the total numbers haven't changed. There's 70 for the LAR and they still remain as 156 for the DMR. So what's changed is the apportionment of those across bed sizes, and so there's been an increase in 3 beds, and that's been an improvement. There's, in terms of determining how the 3 beds have come about, they are an improvement from the last time that this came to committee, and gone up to I think it's 12% now.
Can I, sorry, apologies, just 1 second. Can I ask people to turn their cameras off, because the buffering on YouTube is really awful. So if you're speaking, turn them on, but otherwise please turn them off. I'll just keep mine on, but okay, off you go. Sorry, apologies. David?
I'm not sure if that's answered Councillor Anand's question.
I think you had one from Councillor Wall.
Oh, Councillor Wall. Yes, Councillor Wall is asking about, I'll read my writing.
About the need for 1 or 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom.
1 and 2 bed, and how long are people waiting? I don't actually know the answer to how long people wait for 1 and 2 bed. When I last looked at this, certainly for the larger family accommodation 4-bed plus, that was quite some time, possibly up to 5 years. There's a bigger turnaround, both in terms of relets for 1s and 2 beds, and we get a fair contribution of 1s and 2 beds, so that the wait for those households, and they're also internal transfers, the wait for those households are less than people with larger families. And I think I've got here, meeting housing need in the borough. Well, the honest answer is it's a constant struggle. Housing demand is pretty much endless, and supply doesn't meet demand. But I think as a borough, we're getting better at securing more affordable housing, and the building of affordable housing has also increased. So there was more affordable homes being built, and we're getting more cooperation around making sure that these are policy compliant schemes going forward.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Tariq Mahmood, who's raised his hand.
Chair, I haven't answered Councillor Rice's question about parking.
Ah, okay. Can you just do that then, and I'll go to Councillor.
Yes, I'm endeavouring to do it off the report. I think Councillor Rice was asking about what provision is there for staff parking other than blue badge parking. And the short point, Councillor, is that there is no provision within the scheme. This is designed as a car-free scheme, both for the civic offices and for the residential. And I understand this is consistent with a broader council policy, new ways of working, which is to encourage working from home, which is part of the reason why the new civic offices building is smaller than the existing. And the intention is that if staff wish to bring their cars to work, councillor, and I know just about this because I myself do not live in the borough and have to drive when I come to the offices, then I must park in a public car park, which is normally Springbridge car park, of course, which is a council-owned car park. And in the future, if I wish to do that, then that's what I will have to do if I wish to travel by car.
But will there be the car rental schemes?
Of course there are. Of course there are, Chair. There are car rentals, and of course there are car clubs, and there is provision within the 106 agreement. So if I don't wish to bring my own car, I can use those alternatives.
Okay. All right. Councillor Mahmood.
Okay, Chair, follow on the same question about Councillor Rice raised that. No, I'm not talking about the pupils are coming to the future development. I'm talking about the pupils who are going to live there. And you said there's a 477 residential unit, and we are just designated 15 blue car park spaces. So I'm just wondering, is there any formula you applied for 477 required 15 disabled spaces? Why not 30 and why not 10?
Yes, Chair. There is a standard that's applied, and it's given to us by TfL and the GLA, and the intention is to have no more than 3% parking across the board, and favour is normally given to blue badge parking.
Okay, and we meet that requirement, do we, in terms of number?
Yes, Chair, we do for both the residential and for the office.
Okay, I see
Chair.
no more hands up, so I'm now asking for contribution. Oh, who's that?
Sorry, Chair, I've got my hand up.
All right, sorry,
my hand
that was the second time round then, and Councillor Young. Okay, I'll go back for a second bite, and then we'll move on. Councillor
Chair,
Young.
myself as well. My question wasn't answered, Chair.
Okay, I'll come back to you three then, and then
I've got two sets of questions, Chair.
Okay, come on.
So the first is about the positioning of the municipal block. I understand from the report that the new building will be some 25 foot further south than the existing block. Is there any other building on that stretch of the Uxbridge Road that comes that far forwards? And I also want to ask about that block, how much further east does it extend? Because I believe it impacts on the trees. So how close to the trees will it be? You're going to have to cut back the trees if you're going to build it, I understand. Presumably there's going to be a maintenance task as well to keep the trees from growing into the windows.
Okay, anything else, Councillor Young?
Yes, I've got some questions. I've got another question on the rents.
Yep, go on.
Well, looking at the table which was put up, the 3-bedroom properties, you needed to have a £57,000 income to be able to afford it. But Mr. Baptiste was saying in his report that only people with an income of less than £60,000 would go on the waiting list. So isn't there a very small window of opportunity for people to be able to take up one of those flats? They've got to earn less than 60,000, but more than 57,000.
Okay. Any more? Are you done?
No, that's it for the moment.
Okay.
Oh, there's another badges, blue badges. Sorry, yes, blue badges. There are 2 for public use. Does anybody look to see what the usage is for people who are coming into the town hall to be assessed for needing blue badges? Because if you have a blue badge and you're not automatically reassigned it when it comes up for renewal, you have to come in to be assessed. And one of the reasons we've got parking spaces for blue badges at the side of Percival House at the moment is so that people who are coming into the town hall to get their blue badge assessment can park there. Now we've already got 3 blue badge spaces. I understand from this we've only got 2 in the new development, and they'll be on street, which means that people who can't walk very far would have to walk a distance to get into the new building. Has anybody done any questioning of the department that issues the blue badges to see whether that's satisfactory?
Okay, fine. Councillor Wall?
Thanks, Chair. And sorry to bring this back, but pepper potting. I heard the answer, but I just can't find anything in the report that signifies that we are doing that. Unless I'm just keep browsing the report here, and I can't find it. If the officer can show me in the report where we, or tell me how we are pepper potting each block, because I'm sure I read that the tall building was completely private, the tower. So, the answer I thought I got was that each block was pepper potted, i.e. different blocks to different numbers of London Affordable or the other tenures. Can you just show me or tell me which blocks and what those mixes are, please?
Okay, great. Well, that's fine. The officer's got that. And Councillor Anand, finally to you. Go on. What question was not answered?
Thank you. It was about again. Councillor Young actually brought it up again. It's about the 2 blue badges. I mean, how has that been brought about? It's a car-free zone for residents, but we are also offering a public service to our residents, and we're only giving them 2 badge spaces to come and visit or address any issues. So how has that been addressed properly?
Okay, that's fine. That's covers with Councillor Young. Okay, Greg, can you do the ones, and then David can do some others if he needs to?
Yes, I will, Chair. And what I'll try and do is, I think I'm going to have to get the slideshow just to sort of answer the point about the blue badge parking, because there's a bit of a misunderstanding. Councillor Young, you mentioned whether there are any other buildings along this stretch of road that would have a similar front building line position to the proposed building, and the short answer to that is no. The new block would be closer to the back edge of Footway on Uxbridge Road than the existing one is. And then Councillor, you asked about the relationship of the building to trees, and there is a drawing in the report. The short point is yes. Works will be required to street trees to accommodate the positioning of the new civic offices building. That's set out within the arboricultural assessment of the applicant as well, and that trimming would provide for a safe distance, a separation distance for maintenance and other purposes, so that trees would not be brushing against the building and either would suffer accordingly. There was a councillor had a question about rents, which I
Sorry,
think.
before you move to the rents, I asked how much further to the east, how much closer to Longfield itself would the new building be?
I'll just see if I can find that for you, Chair. Dave, do you want to answer councillor's question on rents while I find an answer to his question on the location of the building?
Certainly, Greg. So I've got this right. I think Councillor Young may have been referring to, is there an opportunity to target people on the housing register as that caps the income at £60,000? And if that's the point being made, oops, oh dear.
David, it was around 57,000. So if you're on the register.
Oh, I didn't. My computer, I thought it packed up. But if you can still hear me, yes. Then we would target people on the waiting list as a preference for those discount market rent homes. It doesn't apply to the London affordable rent, but for discount market rent, we could certainly target people, and that would be our intention on the waiting list to help in that case.
But am I right in saying that when you giving your report earlier, you said that only people on the waiting list with incomes less than £60,000, you can't get people over £60,000 on the waiting list?
Yes, that's correct.
And that for a 3-bedroom flat, you need £57,000 in income. There's a very small window there for people to be able to take over one of these 3-bedroom flats.
Yes, but they would qualify, and in a sense, that small buffer would allow people to make sure that they could be earning slightly more, up to the £60,000 mark. I mean, this is household income. I'd hasten to add, not individual incomes.
I think the point I'm making is it's a very small window. You've got only a £3,000 gap between the 57,000 you need to afford it and 60,000 before you go off the waiting list.
Yeah, but in terms of households, there are some households where there's more than one adult as part of that household, and they would qualify.
How many of them?
Yes, someone might.
I don't hold that information to hand at this point, and it's a constantly moving picture in terms of the housing waiting list.
So, Councillor Young, there could be two people earning around about well, I don't know, 25, 20, whatever.
Yeah, in the 3 beds, there could be 3 people
earning less.
The point is, it's a very small window.
Yes,
If you earn over 60,000, you're off the waiting list. If you earn less than 57,000, you can't afford it. So there's only a small window in which you can actually afford and be on the waiting list.
But Councillor Young, that's not a policy set by us. It's set by the Mayor of London, and it's not.
But it applies to the affordability of the housing.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, the rents are the rents. I appreciate that, and the cap is the cap. But it does allow people to access those homes, whether on the waiting list or not, because discount market rent is not addressed in the same way as London affordable rent. Discount market rent is actually an intermediate housing product, but it's a low cost housing product, which can be targeted at anybody in the borough, but the priority would be going to people on the housing register. If there was nobody there,
it won't make much of an impact on the housing register because there aren't very many people in that window.
I think if I talk to our colleagues in housing need, every single 3-bed plus home is quite precious, and has an impact certainly for the household and the family that takes up that accommodation. I appreciate they may not be large numbers, but that's what we fight for every day, is to try and get more and more affordable homes of all mixes and all sizes.
Okay, Greg, any luck?
Just leave it. Sorry, Chair. Yes, to answer Councillor Young's point about relationship to trees, if you go to page 40 of the report.
Okay, on page 40, now what?
So the topmost image on page 40, there are 2 images which show you the relationship of trees to building.
They seem to be impacting. How much closer is the new building than the old building?
Well, that drawing illustrates it for you perfectly. If you look to the top of the page, the right-hand image shows a slightly shaded outline, and that corresponds to the position of the new building, and then its relationship to the trees adjacent to them, with the red line showing the outer edge of the root protection zone at present. So I can't give you the precise distance.
Scale, though.
No, I can't give you that precise distance, but you can see it visually that there is a trimming back of the tree, and it's set out in the report as well.
So it's taking about half of that side of the crown of the tree off?
It is. Well, not half. I would say.
That side of the crown.
Sorry, I wouldn't say 50%, but it's between 35 and 40%.
So a substantial amount.
Yeah. Okay.
There is still 70% remaining.
Okay, so that clarifies that. I'm now looking at any contributions in terms of people's views.
Sorry, Chair, I've still got a question outstanding.
Okay, what was that, Ray? Sorry, yeah, pepper potting. Greg, can we just sort this pepper potting out once and for all?
Yes.
Show me.
Right. So the position is. Sorry, I'm going to try and do this with the report.
Yeah, just or you can share the screen if you have.
I'm very cautious about doing that, Chair, as you can imagine. After
yes,
everything
I understand, but we're nearly there. The questions are nearly done.
I know. All right. Well, then I'll have one more go, and if it goes wrong, Chair, it wasn't me.
It's fine, but we do need to move on. So just try it and let's get it done.
Yes, Chair. Okay, right. Okay. I won't. It won't enlarge it. We should be able to hopefully read the information from here. So this is the table we were looking at previously, with the color coding relating to each of the blocks. And so what we have here is each of the blocks with the relevant tenures within them. And as you can see, there are mixed tenures within the buildings themselves. So
no, I can't see.
Oh, can you not see it? Can you see? Sorry, can you see the table?
Greg, let me tell you my dilemma. I'm looking at a report which has on page 33 has the table, which is similar to this, and it's very similar. But building 1 sounds to me like a block to me. What does building 1 mean?
Building 1. Yeah.
Go on.
Building 1 is a block. Yes.
Yeah.
Each of the blocks.
28 of those. Sorry. Let me just run this scenario.
Sure.
There's 28 flats in building 1. They're all private. Yes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Building 2, 67 flats, all London affordable rent.
Yes.
Where's the pepper potting?
The pepper potting occurs within other blocks where you can see that there are mixed tenures in building B5, and then within building B5, which is the LAR and DMR.
But you told me earlier that one.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. I misunderstood. I thought you were referring to the mixture within the phases.
What did you mean by the top 7 floors for private and the rest were London affordable rent then?
No, that's in the taller blocks where there is a number of tenures. I think I'm going to have to go back and look at this more closely. Let me just, if you just give me 1 second, please.
The facts in front of me don't tell me. That's what I'm trying to get at, and either I was not understanding your answer or I was misled in terms of pepper potting, and I hope it wasn't the second of that.
No. I assure you, I was not attempting to mislead you at all. I wouldn't do that. I was having trouble misunderstanding your question and in relation to my ability to answer it. So that's not the case. I think I answered your questions just now, which is building B1 has 28 flats in it and they are private. Building B2 has 67 flats in it and they are LAR, but those 2 blocks are within one phase of built development. Your question, now I probably understand, was, yes, but are they all within the same building? And the answer to that is no, they're not. They're in the same phase. I apologise if I misled you.
That's exactly where I started this conversation, right at the beginning of all this. That was my questioning, because when you did the report to the committee, that was the misunderstanding I had, because you started talking about that.
Yeah, well, I apologise to the committee if I gave that misunderstanding, and I'm glad to have clarified it.
So let me clarify it for myself then. There is no pepper potting apart from B5, which is 91 to 3 DMR and LAR. So they're all social housing in that sense. So there is no pepper potting within this site.
And there is no site with it other than that. That's correct. That's correct.
Why not? Greg?
I don't have the answer to that, because, as I understand it, that's the intended arrangement by which the social provider would acquire the units.
Yeah, that's totally different to what we were told earlier.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but this is the correct answer.
And what about the tall tower block? Does that have a mixture?
No.
Well, that's B4, so that's a private block.
And what about the tower block, the 26
Yes,
story?
that is B4.
Okay.
So the poor doors would be buildings 2, 3, 5, and 6 and 4 would be private.
Well, I understand, Chair, the point, and without wishing to inflate the situation, they're not poor doors, because the whole development is tenure blind, Chair. So whether one lives in one block or another, it's impossible to determine what the tenure of that block is, externally or otherwise, because they're built to exactly the same style. That's the extent to which a person comes and goes. It does not distinguish them from another person, only by the tenure of that block. So they're not poor doors in terms of the build quality or the difference in the style or appearance or otherwise. They are tenure blind.
Greg, sorry, and this is more for the senior officers here, because I've been banging on about pepper potting for I don't know how long I can remember, and this is one of our own, partly our own schemes, and we're still not doing it. I don't see a reason, if everything's the same internally and externally, why we can't pepper pot within the site. There is no reason, rhyme or reason for me, why we can't do that. I've been given the reason before that people don't like to mix the maintenance, etc. But I see no reason in one of our own, partly our own schemes, to not do this. I'm mystified. I was pleasantly surprised earlier, because I'd read the report and I didn't see pepper potting. And when your answer said we did, and it was mixed in blocks, that was music to my ears. But now it appears that I misheard or misunderstood, and therefore, you know, this is disappointing, I must say. And I would ask Steve Barton why we haven't got pepper potting in here.
Steve, do we have any?
So I'm trying to get my video to work. Yeah, my understanding is that this is to meet the needs of the housing department in terms of what they perceive to be efficient building management, and to meet the standards that they want, because obviously that is for whom the development is being provided. So I don't know whether, Dave, you've got any further information on that.
I think Councillor Ward's made a point that he has made in the past. It's without trying to deflect it, it's not a point that we push for necessarily in the housing department. This is about the eventual affordable housing provider. So it could, in this case, it could be a housing association. It happens to be the council housing provider potentially who may purchase these homes. And that's usually a discussion between them and the developer. We don't overtly insist that it has to have pepper potting. We achieve pepper potting on an all rental product, I think, as Councillor Wall knows. So where it's all rent, then there is often a mix between the private and the affordable. But in this case, that's not to be.
So, Councillor Wall, you've got your answer, and you need to make a decision on what's on offer. That's what's on offer.
At least I got the answer in the end.
Yeah, apologies, I misunderstood initially as well. So
no. Can I apologise to you as well, Councillor Wall? It was not my intention to mislead you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to any contribution.
Sorry, Councillor. There was one last question that Councillor Anand had asked about visitors, blue badge visitors to the council offices. That because the drawings show 2 on-street blue badge spaces, but there is blue badge parking in the basement of the development. So if someone was visiting the offices either to be assessed or as a disabled person, there was no on-street parking available, they would then enter the development in the same way, using the car lift. There are then disabled spaces in the basement, and then there are disability lifts up to the ground floor of the council offices.
And can you stop sharing, Greg, just in case there's an issue?
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course, Chair. Yeah.
Okay.
I've left it open in council.
You'll be able to get access to that part of the car park.
I'm sorry, Councillor.
That is assuming that members of the public will be able to get access to that part of the car park.
Well, there's no reason why they should not.
If you try doing that at the moment, you don't get very far. There's no reason why that should change. The only publicly accessible disabled parking bays are those immediately in front of Percival House.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Car park at the back, if you remember the public.
Well, I can't take it any further because the parking provision for visitors, for blue badge holders to the council offices is within the basement of the development.
Okay. Is it possible to put a informative for them to come back with this issue? Can we put a condition around disabled parking, or?
Well, it certainly is possible, Chair, within the remit of the application, because Longfield Avenue is included in the application site. If the committee was minded to ask for more blue badge parking on street in Longfield Avenue, subject to its relationship with other access points within the scheme, then there may be scope to do so.
I think that would be helpful and probably come back to the chair. Is that something the committee would support?
Chair, can I just add something? But those spaces will then get taken up by other people. So how will we reserve them for the council?
It's not for the council, it's for people visiting who are disabled.
That's what I mean. But somebody who's going to the shops, to the high street, sees this as a blue badge and they park their cars. How will we monitor that? In hospitals, you have bays. So you have bays registered to that particular parking. And so that nobody else can actually, or even on the streets, there are bays reserved. But if you're just going to have general blue badge reserved parking, anybody who's going to the shop will park there. So we need to, if we're going to do an informative, it has to be very well designed so that we actually keep those parking for people who are visiting the council offices rather than general blue badge bays.
We could do that. Is that possible?
That certainly is, Chair. It would obviously be done in conjunction with transport, but the sign could be put there, which is for visitors to council offices only. And then obviously there are on-street parking controls, and it could be inquired. A ticket system could be employed or something like that. So it's perfectly feasible to have that if we wanted to.
Would the committee? I mean, you could come back to the chair, but I think that would be a way of moving forward on this one small issue. Is that agreed by committee?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking for any contributions as to the debate. So does anybody want to say anything about the actual application and what they think? I've got Councillor Paul Conlon. Did you indicate, Paul?
Sorry, yes, Chair. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
all ears.
Okay, I'll go ahead then. Just briefly. I mean, firstly, like Councillor Wall, after that rather sort of long exchange, but he finally sort of got the answer, well, not the answer he wanted, but the answer to his question. So yeah, I mean, I'm also disappointed that we're not having blocks where the private housing and the rented housing is mixed. It's obviously not, a policy objective that we're pursuing, but I think we do need to think about it, and maybe it should be. As I say, I am disappointed that we've not managed to achieve it, and haven't even tried to achieve it in this development, even though it is our development. Secondly, I do agree with the principle of development on this site. And I think, having a smaller and more modern council offices is a good idea. Having, housing, including a decent quantity of affordable housing is a good idea. And we don't really need the large council offices we've got at the moment, or the car park we've got. That's great. So I think, that I'd really like to, be more supportive of the application here. But the other problem I have is quite simply with, the height of that tower that is causing the problems and the harm in terms of the heritage impact and the daylight sunlight. Now, you know, I know the report says, oh, well, the harm isn't really all that much, and it's, you know, more than balanced by the benefits. But, you know, try telling that to the residents in Apsley House that are, you know, older people in sheltered accommodation. They're going to be harmed, as is admitted in the report, in terms of loss of daylight and sunlight. And the benefits, you know, are not for them. The benefits are to other people. I think, you know, we should have aimed for, and we could have achieved, a development that, you know, reduced this harm in the first place, and could have achieved something where the height was closer to the heights of the buildings, you know, nearby, in Dickens Yard, for example, and down the Uxbridge Road, rather than trying to push the envelope again and go for something even taller. I mean, it seems to me that that's more of an architectural fashion thing than anything that's absolutely necessary for any other reasons.